Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Negative Jubilation. If you've been alive for as long as I have, then you would have seen a lot of coronations, deaths, and celebrations of British monarchs. Personally, I've seen at least 3 of them come to the throne, die or abdicate. Well, that isn't strictly true because, thankfully, glorious Elizabeth II is still alive and kicking, and I am almost embarrassed to say that I actually remember her being coronated in 1953. And let me tell you, that was definitely an exciting time to be alive, especially as she had already been ruling for over a year at that point. My name is Matilda Plum, a superhero in the counseling, therapy and psychology sector. It's my job to travel around helping people solve their problems, protect the innocent and maintain their mental health. So I was more than looking forward to a wonderful long weekend of the Platinum Jubilee, of partying, celebrating and enjoying life, to celebrate the 70 years of the Queen's reign. But I seriously doubted my long weekend was going to be that perfect, and I wasn't going to be that free to do what I wanted. As I walked down Canterbury High Street, it was a very hot sunny day with the sun high in the sky beaming down on me. The air was crisp and boiling with hints of sweat, cakes and delicious puddings. I definitely got the sense something was wrong. The wonderfully warm cobblestone high street was always a joy to walk down. Especially on this Friday lunchtime with Union Jacks in every single little shop window, and massive sale signs were outside along with hundreds of people. It was rare to see so many people of different shapes, heights and ages out together on a public holiday. And with it being early June, most university students were studying harder than ever. But given how this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because no British monarch had ever reigned for 70 years before, it seemed that everyone was out and about shopping, talking and celebrating. Personally, I was just looking forward to Sunday with the massive street parties. I was actually more excited about seeing my superhero friends Jack and Aidan, and hearing about their holidays, than the street party itself. But given how the entire length of Canterbury High Street was meant to be closed off on Sunday, so the entire city could come together, that was definitely going to be a sight to behold. And with any luck, I would get to pick up a nice woman or man to take back to my house and celebrate long and hard into the night. That was the plan anyway. In amongst all the people that were walking the high street today, I was slightly plagued by feelings of happiness, pride and joy as everyone spoke to each other. That was one of the problems of being a superhero psychologist, because all the myths and misconceptions about psychologists were my superpowers. So I really could analyze everyone by what they were saying. And I was so shocked to hear, and feel and see that not a single person out of the hundreds here was grumpy, or angry or negative in any way. That was something that I had always loved about the Queen. She wasn't a typical queen in the slightest because it didn't matter who you were, she would always give you her full attention, and she would talk to you like you were a real person. Instead of some disgusting dumb peasant, like so many older monarchs have done over the centuries, and many politicians did today. With me walking to the halfway point of the high street, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to walk up to the very end and beyond to the train station in search of people who needed help. Not because I didn't want to do my job, but because I really wanted to do a quick round of a new homeless camp in the woods, before I went back to my house to watch some of the Jubilee celebrations. After a few people almost bumped into me, I was about to start heading back the way I came, and towards the homeless camp when my spidey sense activated. Personally, I just hate the word spidey sense because it sounds so childish, and makes what I do sound like a joke. But when my senses activate, it means only one thing. Someone is very much in danger. Knowing that I had to help someone, I continued walking down the high street. I merged into the stream of happy, joyous people as they walked up and down the high street with their friends, family and children. It didn't take too long until I found myself being drawn to the edge of the high street and to the doorway of a closed supermarket. I ducked out of the crowd and went over to the supermarket. It had nothing more than large discount signs, glass doors and a large blue sign over the top of the doors. It was nothing special. But the supermarket wasn't what was important. The sound of crying made the hairs on my neck stand up, and I turned my head ever so slightly to see a young man wearing some cargo shorts, a light blue shirt and some sunglasses were in his hand. He definitely looked smarter than I did with my long jeans, black t-shirt and dirty white trainers. It really wasn't the best outfit for a boiling hot day, but I didn't want to change too badly. Since he was crying, I couldn't help but feel like he was the person I was meant to help, but unless I could get him to talk, I wouldn't be able to use my powers on him. "Hello?" I asked, going over to him. The young man immediately stopped crying and looked at me like I was crazy. "You can see me?" the young man asked. I quickly tapped into my superpowers, and I was shocked with what I found. This young man was the weirdest I had ever seen before. It was like his memories were made of candy floss, and he was both as old as I was, and only had the memories of a 20-year-old. There were so many names, identities and pasts mixed into his mind that I didn't know what to believe and what not to. But there was a single emotion that I got from him. Dread. Whatever was going on with him, this young man, or however old he actually was, he was scared or terrified about it. He was the very, very opposite of jubilation. "Of course I can see you," I said. The young man looked so confused. "What year is it?" he asked. 2022. The 3rd of June actually, I said. That only seemed to confuse him even more. "What is your name?" I asked. "Harry." "No." "Nick." "No." "Henry." "I don't know," the young man shouted. But no one else in the high street seemed to hear him. Now this was just flat out weird. How could a man not know who he was? Or maybe this was a part of all those false memories in him? Then why couldn't other people see him? I tapped into my superpowers again, and tried to really understand him. And as much as a myth it was about psychologists, I really had to look at his childhood. He didn't have one. In all my years as a psychologist and then a superhero one, I have never ever encountered a person who didn't have a childhood. Then I searched for his first ever past. Maybe that would be his real one, and then perhaps all the other pasts were added in later or something. I couldn't find a past that started before any of the others. But I did manage to find that those names he mentioned earlier were ones of thousands of pasts. Apparently the past called Harry was a footballer in the 1930s. The person called Nick was actually called Nixon, and he was a politician in the 1930s, and the man called Henry was a callboy from the 1930s. There was no pattern in any of them. I was going to need some help. "Natalia!" I shouted. Everyone in the high street looked at me like I was some kind of weirdo for a moment, then everything turned blurry for a split second. A stunning fit woman wearing a golden dress, white high heels and long golden flowing hair appeared. And everyone acted like she had always been there. I absolutely loved calling in my boss Natalia, goddess of counseling, therapy and psychology. And even though I had worked with her plenty of times in recent months, she was still the most beautiful and stunning woman I had ever seen. No wonder she was a goddess. I pointed to the young man. Natalia looked like she didn't understand what was so important about him. "He seems to have over 1,000 different pasts and no childhood," I said. Natalia cocked her head, and I knew she was using her divine powers to scan him. "What the hell is going on?" the young man shouted. There was something flashing behind his eyes, and I was starting to realize that he could actually feel Natalia coursing through him. No normal person could ever feel a goddess using her powers on them. That was a fact. "Who are you?" I asked again. The young man's face twisted into rage. "I don't know," he shouted as loud as he could. My superpowers were telling me to run or something, because that shouting angry voice was not the same young man I saw standing in front of me. It was like he was a different person, for a split second. Then I had a strange idea. "You know you were teaching Jack and Aiden about the history of the gods, goddesses and superpowers?" I asked. Natalia nodded. She was so beautiful. "I remember something about living prisons. Like when a god or goddess was found guilty of a crime, and the divine prisons were full. They were sent to living prisons," I said. Natalia nodded regally. "Of course. We called them prison hulks. We would use a normal human that swore service to us, and we would wipe their mind, cast our prisoners into him or her, and then the prisoners would live out their days inside him. And if the prison hulk died, the prisoners would die too?" Natalia nodded. "Yes. This was certainly before I became a goddess. This was an awful barbaric practice that hasn't been done for centuries." I was more than glad about that. "Is it possible this is an escaped one?" I asked. Natalia stared at him intensely, then the young man slowly started smiling. It was not a normal smile in the slightest. It was strange, psychotic and deranged. Whatever used to live inside this young man had died a long, long time ago. Is it possible that a prisoner learnt to control a prison hulk, and feed it, using the life force of the other prisoners? I asked. The young man slowly nodded. "You are correct, Matilda Plum, superhero of the traitor goddess," the young man said in a voice that definitely wasn't his own. "Who are you?" Natalia asked firmly. "Do you not recognize me, sister? I was your brother. I was your protector. I was your better," the young man said. Natalia looked blank. I was very scared all of a sudden. Natalia never had a blank face, unless something was seriously wrong. "My brother died when I was a baby," Natalia said. The young man grinned. "I was the god of psychology, therapy and counseling. I am the rightful heir to your power. I was derailed by our parents." Tapping into my superpowers, I instantly knew that the young man wasn't lying, and Natalia had no idea that she ever had a brother. But clearly the centuries had not been kind to him. "How did you do this?" I asked. The young man laughed. "The mind, the human psyche, behavior. It is mine to control and feed off. I can control anyone. It is basic psychology. And as a god, I know everything about human behavior. I know what makes a person tick just by looking at them." I looked at Natalia, and even behind all that stunning beauty, I knew that his words were troubling her. It was only now I was starting to understand the extent of her power that she wielded every day, but never dared to use. Because she had heard the rumors of what happened if you abused that power. "Natalia!" the young man shouted. "Kneel." I watched Natalia try to fight it off, but she did as she was commanded. I had never ever seen a goddess do as she was commanded by someone before. He was that powerful. "See, sister. All this power could be yours. I am only able to do that because of the life forces inside this prison hulk. But you have the power. I could teach you how to be the most powerful goddess in all of creation." I just laughed at that. "You really think this is about power?" I said. "Natalia has never wanted power, and look at where your power-hungry ambitions got you." The young man laughed. "All the other gods and superheroes were my puppets. I controlled Zeus and Jupiter and Thor and so many others. I ruled through them, and when people found out I controlled them, I just shook my head, not because I didn't believe him, but because I wanted to annoy him." I don't believe you. Kneel, he shouted at me. But I felt no compulsion to do so. He didn't have any life force left in his prison hulk to command me. He was probably still using it to command and control Natalia. If I could just get him to use up more of his power, then I might be able to free her. You stupid woman, he shouted. Of course. Former god of psychology and the rest. He could probably read minds just like I could. You aren't that powerful then, are you? I shouted. He hissed. You are nothing but a weak, pathetic god, I said. Kill her, he shouted. Natalia slowly stood up, and I watched dark black energy start to form thick black ropes in her hand. This was bad. Kill her, he shouted. Natalia spun. She lashed out, wrapping the rope round the man. He hissed. He shouted. He commanded her. But it was all far too late. As Natalia's brother commanded more and more, the young man aged rapidly. He was suddenly ancient and he turned to dust. Natalia just hugged me. It didn't take me too long to find out what happened about Natalia, her brother, and the prison hulk. In fact, I had just switched off the amazing Platinum Jubilee concert on the Saturday night, when Natalia turned up at my door. It was weird enough just experiencing an amazing concert with a hilarious comedy sketch of the Queen herself, and a classic British bear from everyone's childhood. But it was just strange to have a goddess, a stunning one at that, actually knock on your door. As I led her into my very large living room, with my 3 large sofas, coffee table in the middle, and a massive TV on the wall. She smelled amazing of hints of honey, perfume and coconut that was about to send me into horny overdrive. But I managed to get control over myself, long enough for us to sit down on the sofas, and I made us 2 mugs of fine English tea. It was only appropriate, considering the weekend. I just looked at her, and was actually sad to see her looking so down and depressed. Something I never expected, from the goddess of counseling and therapy. Turns out my brother was a foul man. He was 20 years old when he made god of our sector, and he instantly found out how to use his powers for evil, Natalia said. There was nothing I could say to that. At first he controlled my parents. He made them beat each other, and give him everything he ever wanted. They couldn't even defend themselves. Then he quickly found out he could control a massive group of people at once. Within a week he controlled all the gods, goddesses, and what tiny number of superheroes there were back then. Wow. Thankfully my parents managed to grow their own powers in secret, so they could gently encourage the minds of the other gods and goddesses to resist. Then over time my brother's control got weaker and weaker, until the gods and goddesses and their recently saved superheroes could fight back. And you have this power? Natalia nodded. I stumbled across it all centuries ago, but I never used it again. There was no point, and I knew it could lead to damnation in the end. I raised my mug to her. Then you are a very wise woman indeed. Natalia just looked at me. You know you don't give yourself enough credit, right? Without you, my brother would still be alive. Who knows how many people he could have hurt if he could find a willing superhero to corrupt. I quickly realized what she actually meant. He wasn't crying because he was upset. He wanted a superhero to find him. Natalia nodded. Then she clicked her fingers and my massive TV turned on, and it was covering the Queen's long reign. This weekend isn't really about the Queen, you know, I said. It's really about the values of Her Majesty, about freedom, diversity, and celebrating wise women amongst other things. Natalia picked up her mug, raised it and smiled. To wise, powerful and beautiful women, she shouted. As we both chided our mugs, we both relaxed into my sofa and talked and celebrated together. Because we were all definitely powerful and wise and wonderful women that would always protect, serve and look after the innocent people, no wonder who they were. And I couldn't think of a better thing to celebrate on this wonderful Saturday night with one of my best friends in the entire world.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help us spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.